you spent the entire year, if not the entire decade, really diving into the scam that is Hex. And I have to ask you, like, couldn't you have focused on something else? Because Hex appears to be the smallest, most irrelevant scam in the world of scams. Like, it's tiny. Like, do you understand how
It's not
much
tiny though.
money
It's one of the biggest. Like this is the thing that people don't understand. So the only
Sam Bankman-Fried siphoned $10 billion out of this ecosystem? It's not like Luna that had this
no,
fake coin market cap,
Richard
which
Hart
isn't even
siphoned
real.
more. Richard
It's
Hart
true.
siphoned no.
Hard $10 billion.
No, Richard
He
Hart
did
siphoned
not.
more. He did
He
because
did not siphon
he,
$10 billion. Come on.
oh yeah, well I was thinking about like how much he raised from investors. Yeah, it's true that that if you take into account all the retail deposits that got lost, which you obviously should, then
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's bigger. But I'm just saying in terms of being well, if you take the user deposits as a part of this very intentional scam, if that was Sam's plan to just I'm just gonna scam the user deposit, maybe that's true. Like maybe that was a part of the scam. Maybe it's something that happened, like he said, it happened gradually and a bunch of bad decisions accumulated and ended up this way. But I mean, when you're saying that Richard Hart's scheme, I want to be sensitive with my words here, is small in the landscape of crypto. It's maybe because you're getting tricked by coin market cap and you think that Hex is like a 200 spot coin. But the only reason that it's there is because there aren't a lot of people, like Hex is not listed on any centralized exchange. It's only on Uniswap. And there isn't massive amounts of trading that is happening there because most of them just stake their Hex and they just keep it there. So because the volume to market cap ratio is so horrendously low, coin market cap automatically thinks that Hex is not really like it's just like you could, for example, print
Eric,
billions.
listen.
It's one of the largest.
Had,
It's one of the largest scams
FTX,
in the project in the
FTX
world. I'm
had
saying like Hex is one of the largest schemes in the world.
Tom Brady and Larry David promoted FTX on national TV ads. And I'm sorry, Richard Hart is just a small-time scammer. It's not even comparable. He's like a
it's one of the biggest in the world still, even
like
though that Sam is
like a used car salesman. It's not even comparable. It's nothing.
No, Sam is yes, he's like
Sam is
Bernie
like a
Madoff.
mastermind.
He's a Bernie Madoff size giant in this, right? But the Hex scheme is one of the longest running schemes that is definitely like bigger than OneCoin, for example. So it's a massive scheme that has been running on for a very long time, and it's
is this your legacy? You fought a coin that is bigger than OneCoin? That's hey guys, it's bigger than OneCoin. It's bigger than BetConnect.
I won't lie.
Cares? Eric, you missed the big scam.
Eric sounds a little bit like Gary Gensler in this instance. He's like, no, we have to go after Library Coin and Kim Kardashian. They are threats to consumers worldwide. It is one of the biggest scams in crypto.
You're never gonna understand. I have a thing with the Hex community. Like we have a thing going on, and
it's true. It's actually it's true for both sides because they love engaging with Eric too. They kind of adore the guy. It's a very interesting relationship.
You know what's going to happen is that eventually something is going to happen to Richard. So he will either like they will take him away. He will disappear. Like something always. Like, you should never be the main character, and he's too big of a main character in his own bubble. So something will happen. Like either Pulsechain launch fails, he disappears. And then what's going to happen to this entire?
Look at you! You know their terms. You're like Pulsechain. What's a Pulsechain?
That's what I was going to ask. I don't know if I'm going to regret asking this, but as somebody who would take 0 and 10 to this, like it seems like he sold a token, they staked it, and that's a scam.
What was the question?
Like what is the scam? He sold a token, they bought it and staked it, and the price went down.
No, this is why I'm not calling it a scam. I'm just saying it's a scheme. It's a scheme that I mean it's just an ERC20 token, and you stake it and you get more of the token, and then you make these claims that this coin is like a certificate of a deposit, so because it has a yield. And
it just sounds so mild right now. It sounds so like benign. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really any worse than the food tokens.
I have, you guys are ganging up on Eric. Listen, I'm with Eric on this one. Like, this scam is just accumulating coins as it goes on, and it's like never ending. So yeah, like as an instantaneous thing, like this FTX thing is huge. But if you add up, these people, they get convinced by the marketing and they lock up, for 5-10 years. They're not gonna like have anything to withdraw in 5-10 years. And when you
Yeah,
add
that's
up,
true.
like, I mean, it's gonna just be a lot over the years. How much is like locked up in these things?
Yeah, we're talking about tens of billions of dollars actually. That is like in terms of value of hex coins that are locked up in staking. You're talking
Wait,
about.
but is that actual tens of billions of dollars that
No, now
people
because
put in physically?
I mean, it crashed now already 94%, so it's only like 5
No,
billion or
but you
something
you
like
see
that.
what you're doing. You're looking at the market cap. That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking actual physical cash that people took from their wallet and put into Hex, because
Yeah.
that's the question. The
No,
market
yeah,
cap is just an
that's like yeah,
artificial bullshit.
that's like a couple of that's the thing is so it started with in
Because
originally.
FTX took
Yeah,
$10 billion in
yeah, and
cash,
listen, but
real
listen.
money.
Okay, so listen. In the
Yes.
beginning, 2019, end of 2019, 2020, when the so-called adoption amplifier was running in Hex, I think that they just raised maybe like 10 or a couple of $100 million from that. Let's say $200 million. Okay. Actually, I think it was less because this was before the whole DeFi boom and everything. So maybe like tens of millions of dollars. But in earlier last year, they did another ICO for Richard Hart's next project, and they're actually doing like these retail ICOs, and they're just calling it sacrifices, but they're actually ICOs. Everyone is sending money to Richard, and that one got like cold hard cash. We're talking about $700 million. Like some of that may be some pretty illiquid tokens, but I think like safely we can say that another $500 million was deposited there. And then he had another ICO for just this is the insane thing. So he does an ICO for an Ethereum clone basically, and then he does another ICO for a Uniswap project that is supposed to launch on top of that Ethereum clone, and then the Uniswap clone raises even more. So the Ethereum clone raised like let's say $500 million, and then the Uniswap clone that's called Pulsex raised another billion. So he's approaching like $2 billion raised from like trailer park people that get trapped in MLM schemes. Like these are the kinds of people that get pulled into this. Like these are the most vulnerable people in society that are piling in their money into this, because Richard was saying that this pulse chain system that he was going to create was going to be so much better than Ethereum, and there was going to be tons of bugs in Ethereum, and it wasn't going to be nearly as good as his creation. And then what he did was he said it was going to launch in 2 weeks, and then it's been like over 1.5 years now, and now it turns out that he's only going to copy paste Ethereum 2.0. So the thing that he said it was going to be better at, he's just copy pasting that thing. And the people that invested, several
You're so
more than,
caught up in this. You're so caught. There's like 17,000 other scams just like that, and you know all of the details by heart. I'm actually impressed. No pun intended, by the way, when I said by heart.
well, I have like I said, I have a special relation. Like they chose me. I didn't choose them. I was just walking around,
That
and
is actually true.
they chose me to be their anti-hero.
But you know that this is part of his. That's part of his like marketing shtick. He finds like big. Do you remember when he kind of went after a lot of the Bitcoin Maxis podcasters? He tried to be invited to all of the Bitcoin Maxis podcasts, and kind of like he had one with Peter McCormack and one with Stefan Rivera. That was like 2-3 years ago, I think. And he tried to get them to call him a scammer, and then he like made complete fools out of them. He had one with Svetsky, I think. So he ran through like the entire Bitcoin Maximus scam because it works for him. Like it's good for him when people like giving him that attention, and he gets to like rally his troops around him. It actually works for him. It gets him the attention.
this is the reason that I am staying as the anti-hero here, because everyone else that tries to criticize Hex they don't know the intricacies of Richard Hart's arguments. They don't know the way that he's gonna like make them look stupid at the end of that argument. I do know the ins and outs in all of his arguments. So I do have the ability to actually make him look stupid sometimes. So for example, after our debate that we had in Stockholm, I was reading the Hex and the Pulsechain forums, and I can send you the screenshots. There are tons of people there who are saying that they're getting disillusioned and that Richard Hart looks like a stupid child in this context. So because
there was this early video like a couple years ago that I think you met Richard randomly in some conference, and you had like an impromptu interview and you completely clowned him. I remember that way. He was explaining some bullshit, and you were stopping, and you're like, Richard, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. That one was actually hilarious.
That was that was the inception of the thing, and this is the reason why I'm still, I'm a very argumentative person, and I have to be right at the end. And because I said this is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my entire life, and then it turned out to be this scheme that reached a market cap of like $40 billion, then that community is making me eat dirt here. Like they're making me eat crow. So I'm still stuck in that argument where I'm getting tagged by hundreds and hundreds of people each week that are like, "Oh, Eric, look at this. You said it was the dumbest fucking thing you've ever heard in your life, but it turned out to actually be an excellent scheme that does trick the psychological fall pits of humans. So it's an excellent mousetrap, and this is the whole thing. Like it's designed to capture stupid people into like it's designed to. It's like duck lips on a girl. Like it's designed to trick you to go that direction, even though there isn't anything there." So because
a lot of life lessons here.
I respect your commitment to I've been sarcastic and joking a lot, but I do respect your commitment. Like I respect anyone who spends lots of time and mental energy trying to save people from scams. But at the end of the day, one hex equals one hex, and I just really don't see how you can disprove the value of their investment if they're actually holding the same amount of coins they bought.
Well, hex is endlessly inflatable. It just inflates with like 40%, at least like 30% each year. That's the thing. The circulating supply that the people have access to increases with like 30% each year. So one hex is like 0.7 hex the next year. And
would you agree? Would you agree that let's say Olympus and Wonderland, Ohm and Time were probably more effective scams, as in they managed to fleece more money from investors with very similar dynamics?
Yes and no. I mean, they are very, very similar, I'd say. Like all these food tokens and the OMIs and Ampleforth and all that is very, very similar to what Hex does. It just pulls people in with APYs, like yields that the people chase after, and it's like a mousetrap of the human psyche. But the thing with Hex, though, it's like this is a cult and a community of that doesn't have its counterpart in the whole ecosystem of crypto. This is like a religion for these people, and they base their entire lives and their personalities around being hexicans to a much larger extent, and they have hex conferences. And it's just more like embedded into
I mean,
the world.
one thing I noticed, so I called out, I was an up only like a year ago, and I called out both Ohm and Hex. And of course, I get a lot of shit after the show. Everyone's like adding me, tagging me on Twitter. And the difference is the Ohmies, they just have like their name, it's like a normal Twitter account. There's like a normal CT people. They just got caught up in it, and they have 33 in their name. The Hexicans is different. The actual the name, like the full Twitter handle always has Hex in it. It's like Hexonaut, Hex 666, Hex Queen, Hex King. So their identity is not just like a tag, like you see 33. It is literally all of them have it in their handle. It's like a whole next level. And just to answer your question, Udi, my personal opinion, the reason why it's a lot worse what Hex is doing than what Ohm is doing, which was it just kind of behaved as the code told you. But Hex is a little bit different. There's all these hidden mousetraps, these hidden dungeon doors where Richard is stealing more and more of your money. Yeah. You can if you don't exactly catch the window between when you stake and when when it gets unstaken, if you miss it, either you go too early or too late. Either way, there's a secret passage, and all your coins go to Richard's wallet. It's insane. He claims he doesn't know whose wallet it is. Of course, it's his wallet. This is next level stuff, man.
I just don't know why he must siphon their money from from many different ways at the same time. So there's the new project that he launched, the sacrifices that sucks in their money. But then even inside these games, there are these unstaking penalties where it says it's an unstaking penalty, but the money is actually just a siphon that drains more money back into the origin wallet. It's just an insane game, and I can't believe that people actually get trapped in this thing. Oh, I just have to mention. Last year, the Hexicans sponsored a NASCAR car, and they were super stoked about. They got all the hex colors on this car, and then during the race, it was something weird happened with this car, and for some reason, it starts moving like way slower than all the other cars. So every single car in the race just outpaces the Hex car, and the Hex car comes last in the entire race. So that like the whole Hex community, they had all their like hopes and desires like pinned on this car performing well, and then it was the worst car in the entire race. And the depression that I saw in all these Hex channels at the same time were like people were actually like really really sad about how it went for the car.
Guys, it's been fun. I have one last question. One of the listeners sent me. They're just asking about the money that might get pulled out of funds, like the redemptions every quarter. Are you guys hearing or expecting that will affect prices? I guess there's not many funds holding Bitcoin, right? Like no fund is allowed to just buy Bitcoin with their GP with like their LP money. But I don't know if this is going to affect some of the other parts of the industry or not. Or maybe like people don't withdraw because they're like down. Like if you're a multi-coin, you're probably down 95% at this point. Maybe you just YOLO it. I don't know. Maybe there's no redemptions.
I haven't heard any news
Is multi-coin actually down 90%?
Oh, that sounds like a lot, but I would be very surprised if they were down that much. I mean,
I heard 50%.
I mean, multi-coin's down 55% this month, and Solana's already, even before this month, was already down, like 90%. So
is multi-coin down 55% this month? Holy fucking!
Yeah.
That's like 5 billion, isn't it? Wasn't it like 5? Because their AUM was like 10 billion. Like last
I
month.
heard they went from 10 billion to 500 million. That's
no
like
what? From 10 billion to 5 billion. You mean no?
500 million, like down 95%.
What?
Well, they had 1 billion in cash on FTX. They had a bunch of unlimited bags of Solana. It's
They definitely had a big equity investment in FTX too.
Right. So all of that, goes from billions of marking to like flat zero.
I won't believe it until I see it. If Multicoin prints a 95 minus for the month, I'm gonna lose my shit. That would be one of the most insane.
No, they said the month already is out. They released it's 55 down for the month.
Okay, but over the year it's 95.
For the year, yeah, for the year, it's got to be like.
That's so insane because Kyle was saying that doing this bear market.
Solana was $260 in the beginning of the year, so.
Yeah, Kyle was,
I'm probably off by a month or two, but something like that.
Yeah, Kyle was saying that this bear market, Solana, and it's going to outperform Bitcoin because people care about the tech. Was what he said.
I remember that.
I mean, the problem with these guys is like they start believing their own like stuff. And Kyle said that $100 is like the hard floor on Solana. And I think from what I hear, like they were buying more at 100 on the way down. Like they just like tried to defend 100, and now we're at like 10 or 11 or something. It's pretty brutal.
Okay.
One soul.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Soul. I have a last question.
How are soul miners doing?
Though, Eric, like if you could pick any, I guess let me phrase it this way: is Richard Hart, out of every other alleged scammer in the industry, the one person you could lock up if you were given the choice to lock up anyone in crypto? Is he like your top pick?
No, I mean I'd rather see Sam going to prison than Richard. I'm actually very entertained by Richard. Like the way that he just keeps scheming and doing things going forward. I mean, this is why I stay in touch with the guy on some levels. It's because it is entertaining to see how he's just like following his play-by-play is pretty entertaining. Locking him up, no, I want a renaissance for the hexagons. I want them to reach. I want them to elevate themselves and move away from Richard on their own accord, because many of these people are they come from cults, they come from MLM schemes, and if Richard just goes away and he gets trapped and gets locked up, then the people that came from a previous scheme and now got trapped in this scheme, they're only going to go into another scheme after this. So this is the chance, I think, for them to learn and get in touch with a big enough community that they can, as a community, learn to elevate themselves and to grow from this. So I don't want him to die like a martyr. That would be. I want Hex to pan out in its own natural path. And I'm actually sad to see that the SEC is subpoenaing Hex influencers. I don't know if you heard about that, but the SEC is going after Hex now and subpoenaing the Hex influencers. I think it would be a giant it would be very sad if Hex dies an unnatural death and Richard goes away as a martyr, because then these people would never learn anything. What I want to see is just that the inflationary scheme that he has created does eventually outpace, like the inflation rewards outpaces the new demand, and then the game collapses onto itself, which is what I've been sort of predicting all along. Like when they can see that happens, then they'll be like, okay, maybe you can't get 30% yield without the thing collapsing unless there's more users. So that does kind of create a Ponzi-esque element to it. So that's sort of the lesson that I want them to learn.
What if CZ manufactures a bank run? Would that make you happy?
Sorry, what did you say?
What if CZ manufactures a bank run on Hex? Would that make you happy?
I don't know. I think I just want the thing to go its own natural course. I don't want them to give them any excuse. I want to win fair and square.
Of course, if it goes through its natural course, then that's like the point of maximum damage to hexagons, right? That's because the other option is that it's stopped before it gets to maximum damage. So you're saying no, I want them to feel the maximum pain possible.
Yes.
And then for it to end. Yes. Okay.
No, yeah. I don't know. Like I want them to learn a lesson. I want them to learn a real lesson. I don't want them to get an excuse, because otherwise you're just going to fall into another scheme. And yes, if that does mean that I have to rally all the sheep into a big of a herd as possible and throw them all off the cliff at the same time, then sometimes you have to go through pain.
Because that's
growth through adversity.
Here's the interesting question. So like Bitcoin Maxis, for example, they claim that the reason they go after scams is in order to save people from the scams and to protect them. What you're saying is you're going after the scams just as entertainment, really, and you still hope that they suffer the maximum damage possible so that you can. I'm
getting a message from my lawyer, and he says that I should say that I'm trying to protect. I'm trying to protect the community from scams, and this is why I'm doing this. I'm sticking to that story.
Okay. just wanted to make sure. That's good. That's good.
Guys, I have to run. It's been a pleasure. I just have to say, if I was only given like one get in jail card, I would stay up all night trying to figure out between SBF and Mashinsky, but I think I would go with Mashinsky in the end. Just we forget about it now because there's a new news. But
what do you mean? You want to destroy? Like if you were given one, like if you could just beat him up.
I could send one of them. Send one of them to jail.
Oh, send them to jail. I thought you wanted to beat him up, like physically punch him in the face and get out of jail yourself.
Do you think that Mashinsky just ended up accidentally inflicting less damage, but he was like the worst actor?
I think
he's the worst actor.
I think that Mashinsky. I think that Mashinsky is the worst guy because he doesn't have any other redeeming qualities to himself. Like. Sam doesn't have tons of redeeming qualities, being like a vibrating like Vitalik autist imitator, blob, like the vegan vibrating. Like that's not a great thing to be. Like this orgy, it's very disgusting. Like the whole character. But Mashinsky is, he's just like disgusting. Like his whole essence of the being is like. No, I just can't stand the guy, and it's just you just know that this guy takes all the profits and just that it's just going to a bunch of hookers or something with Mashinsky.